Hey guys, it's Anthony Bandiero here, attorney and senior legal instructor for Blue to Gold Law Enforcement Training, bringing you another roadside chat from the FOP conference in beautiful Miami. No place I'd rather be in Miami than in August with the heat at its apex. I'm totally kidding with you. This place is absolutely hot. I'm going to melt. But we have a question from an officer in Ohio. He says, all right, I'm working my beat, I'm pushing my black and white, and I see a business that's open, and a door that's open to a business, but the business is closed. I go there, I try to yell into the business, hey, police, is anybody here? There's nobody there. Clearly, the officer thinks that somebody left the business door open on accident. He does not want the business to suffer any kind of burglary, property damage, and so forth. He wants to do the right thing. He wants to enter, make sure, maybe clear it. Ultimately, he wants to close the door. He wants to lock it. Would that be a violation of the Fourth Amendment? All right, let's kind of talk about a few ground rules before we answer the question. The first thing is that we do know that generally speaking, we don't enter structures unless we have crew. Crew is consent, either express or implied. A recognized exception could be the emergency aid exception. Somebody needs your help, fire, medical, domestic violence, robbery, and so forth, alarm calls. Or a warrant. So do we have consent here, express or implied? No, it'd be a stretch to try to say that we have any implied consent that because somebody left their door open. We don't know why the door is open. It could be because they have an employee without a key and so forth. Do we have a recognized exception? Well, let's look at Caniglia versus Strom. What happened in there is the U.S. Supreme Court said that when cops enter homes, now this is a home case, this is not a business case, but when cops enter homes, and they are going to, enter and try to provide some kind of law enforcement assistance, they cannot enter that home on community caretaking. The reason why community caretaking does not work is because community caretaking does not have baked into it any kind of exigency, any kind of emergency, urgency. We generally speaking need some kind of exigency to enter homes. Now, does Caniglia versus Strom, does that logic of you need exigency, not community caretaking, does that apply to a business? And the answer is maybe, right? We don't know yet. I mean, if there's a case out there now, many pre-Caniglia cases, all pre, said that you could enter these businesses under community caretaking. However, many of them, and I mean many, still analyzed it and gave it and did find that there was still exigency. So they called it community caretaking, but they also found that there was a level of urgency to basically go in there, clear the business, lock the door, do what you had to do to protect people's property. So when you read those cases, it's probably not safe to say, well, we're good because community caretaking still applies to businesses. It's probably, I think the Caniglia, the logic still applies here. We're looking for exigency. But ask yourself this, would you have some kind of urgency to secure that premises, right? When you really think based on objective factors that the business door was left open on accident, there's no indication that it's an employee working in there, and so forth. And the answer is probably yes, right? This logic is similar to when people leave the garage open. Now, when they leave the garage open, clearly crossing that threshold into the garage is way easier because we know that Caniglia says you can't do it unless you have some kind of urgency. But I'm not saying you don't have it, but that would be easier because it is a home. Does that apply to businesses? I would say that the safe bet is that you probably need, again, some level of urgency. And do you have it? Articulate it. But I like to slow roll these things. I like to try to call emergency numbers. I like to try to get CAD. I like to try, CAD to tell me, who lives there and who works there, if we can find that out. Use the, internet to try to see if we can get a phone number. Whatever it is, I like to try to get in contact with people first. But if that doesn't work, you're going to have to make that determination about whether or not it makes sense for you and your community, your agency, whether or not it makes sense for you to actually still enter that property, to lock the door and so forth. Again, I'm not telling you one way or the other. I think I can see it being upheld in many circumstances, but my lesson here right now is to try to look for some kind of urgency, and I think you'll probably have it. All right, if you like what we're doing here at Blue to Gold, like, subscribe, share with your friends. Until next time, my friends, you stay safe and you make good case law.